My first job was at Western Auto. It was just a sea of typists, ladies doing typing. And, the break came for lunch and stuff, and I said hi. They just gave me nasty looks. Nobody spoke to me. And I thought, God, what did I do to these people? So 3 days later, the boss calls me in, and he says, gee, I'm sorry, Carmen, we're going to have to let you go. And I said, why? Didn't I do the job good? And he said, no, you did the job great. But he said, since you came to work here 3 days ago, all these women, they've never seen anybody like you. And then he said, the boys on the dock, their work is in half because they're too busy trying to flirt with you. And he says, you know what? You need to get into show business.
Why do my arms reach for you? Why am I inclined to want to stay? Why do I still adore you? It's hard to say.
Years ago, they wanted me to be Miss Chicago. And I said, no. And they said, why not? I said, what, I'm going to go enter some contest. I'm going to lose to some ugly fart, and then I'm going to ruin my confidence. All my life, everybody said to me, oh, look at those eyes, she's so gorgeous.
It's hard to say. In this world of wonder.
When I was a kid, going to school was the most awful experience of my whole life.
In Chicago?
Yeah. Every day, all the girls would chase me down the street trying to beat me up. And as a matter of fact, one time they threw a brick and hit my mother in the head. Not only are the girls picking on me, and I'm known as the biggest whore in school. Never been kissed. Never had a date. Never would let boys near me because I thought, well, if I don't let any boys near me, they won't talk about me. This black girl, Azilla, she said, I think you need a bodyguard. I was about 10. She said, I'll be your bodyguard. And I said, oh, okay. So the whole crowd, and it was always the little one in front. The little one was always in front with the crowd of girls, to come beat me up. So here's Azella. She's like about 6 feet tall already. And she sticks her butt out, kind of like a Zulu stance. And boy, they ran. They ran. So now they send us to juvenile home. Yeah, for ditching. Here we were in there for 2 weeks. With murderers, drug addicts, prostitutes, and here we are in there for ditching.
11?
I wasn't quite 11. I was 10 and a half. Azella was 13. In the meantime, someone tells this one girl that I called her a nigger, which I didn't. So God knows where she got a razor blade. But anyway, she comes up. I was drinking at the drinking fountain, and she grabbed a hold of my hair and went like this, and all of a sudden, I feel this warm, and I look, it's all blood. Of course, there's no mirrors in the place, right? So the warden comes in, she goes, oh! And so, yeah, they take me to the infirmary. She had sliced up my whole face. Thank God it wasn't deep. Stayed about 2 or 3 weeks in school. I couldn't stand it, so started ditching again. Got called up before a judge, and he said, well, we're going to send you away till you're 21. So my mother said, well, now what? And I said, I don't know. She said, we're going to have to leave town. And you think you're so smart, you want to support me? I said, sure, I'll do it. So because, nobody knew I was 11 years old. My God, I looked 20. So in the meantime, I supported her until the day she died. She was 86. First time I went to Vegas, I was not quite 13, and I got fired. And that's when I met Diane. Diane and I went to Vegas. We were hired by the Sands.
Diane Ladd?
Yeah. And I made the mistake of telling this girl how old I really was, and she told on me. I was emceeing Lou Walters' Latin Quarter review at the Riviera in Vegas. And I was finally old enough. I was 18. Some talent scouts, no, actually Sidney Skolsky saw me. And Walter Winchell had already was a fan of mine. And so he and Walter Winchell were going, I discovered her. Skolsky said, no, I discovered her. And I said, oh, who cares who discovered her? And in the meantime, Skolsky told his agent to come and see me at the Riviera. And he was a real good-looking guy, Jim Maloney. And he came backstage and he said, you should be in the movies. And I said, yeah, and so should you. When Elvis asked me out in Vegas, 10 times I didn't go. He came backstage with his entourage and the whole bit. And I would have gone if he had said, would you like to meet me in the lounge? Instead, he said, I'll meet you in the lounge after the show. And he's saying, oh, I think you're so wonderful in the show. He said, I'll meet you in the lounge after the show. And I said, sorry, I'm busy. I was 20 when MGM put me under contract in 1957, December I think it was. I was 10 years too late because MGM hired me to dance and sing. And I never danced another step and I never sang another note.
Well, Flyboy's got to win. For a lot of reasons.
Sam, you said afterwards.
So I changed my mind. She's got a right to know.
Well, maybe, but...
A right to know what? What is this?
Take it easy, kid. Take it easy, I'll tell you. Tomorrow's my last race. As of tomorrow night, I'm ex-jockey Sam Barry.
So that's the big secret, huh? How come you knew first?
Well, there's one other thing. One other reason, really, why I'm quitting. I'm, getting married.
Oh, yeah? Oh, I think that's great. No, really great. I was worried about you being lonely away from the track. But with two of you... Well, who's the girl? Do I know her?
Yeah, you know her.
Well, what's the matter? Come on, who is she?
Me.
Sorry, kid, really sorry. We didn't mean for it to happen. Look, I've gone over this thing in my mind a dozen times, how to tell you.
It just wouldn't have worked, Ronnie. Honestly, it wouldn't have.
Shut up, shut up, shut up!
Well, you don't have to get so upset.
Warren was not my type. Not my type. Well, because Warren dated everybody in the world, And I certainly wasn't going to be one of his victims. So I was with a date, and Warren came by, and my date had just gone into the men's room. And he said, Carmen, I said, oh, hi, Warren, how are you? And he said, fine. He said, I want your phone number, and I'm not leaving this time until I get it. And I said, oh, come on, Warren, whatever. And I wouldn't give him the phone number. He said, well, I'm gonna start a scene. And here comes the date out of the bathroom. And so I remembered this friend of mine was always saying, oh, I think Warren Beatty's so great, so I gave him her phone number. About 2 months later, he finally got my phone number, and he called and he said, you've got a lot of nerve doing something like that to me, and blah, 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 whatever. And he said, what's your address? I'm coming right over. And I said, I'm not telling.
At a midnight film preview, Frank Sinatra heads a list of celebrities.
But as far as Frank goes, Frank was a nice guy, and I didn't want to date him. I wasn't going to be somebody. I'm not anybody you could boss around, And I knew that we'd be instant enemies. And so rather than make an enemy out of him, I never dated him. And about 20 years later, I finally made a date with him and to go to dinner. And his makeup man kept calling me saying he'll be an hour late, a half hour late, another hour. And so finally I said to Beans, his makeup man, I said, listen, tell Frank let's make it another day, because I was all ready at 8:30, then 9:30, then 10:30. Now it was almost going to be 11 o'clock. And I said, I'm tired, you know. It's like, we'll make it another time. So Beans said, okay, I'll tell him. So then Frank comes on the phone. Called me. What, now you're breaking the date? And I said, Frank, it's almost 11 o'clock. I've been sitting here since 8:30. I'm exhausted. And he says, oh, you're breaking the date. And I said, well, I guess if that's the way you want to put it, yes, I'm breaking the date. And he hung up. I wore that thing on my head in Easy Rider, hoping nobody would recognize me. I was embarrassed after I saw all those hippies. Me and the cameraman were the only two sober people. They were all drugged out, lying on the ground going, I said to Dennis Hopper, I said, what do you want me for? What is this? And he said, oh, Carmen, you're this mime, and you've come to do the hippies out of their food and their money. I said, now who's going to believe this? I think I was coming from a party in the valley. Just as I started to get out of the car, a hand comes over my mouth. Don't move or I'll kill you. And he yanks me out of the car, and I could taste blood. I know my lip was bleeding. And just a split second, he let go just for a second. I said, you fucking asshole piece of shit. How dare you scare me like that? I thought you were the cops. And he was so shocked. So what is your problem, asshole? I talked like the biggest bull dyke that ever hit the road. Anyway, his picture appeared in the newspaper and on TV, and he murdered 8 nurses, and his name was Richard Specht. And he murdered these nurses one by one, if you can imagine. He took them down the hall and murdered each one by one. Can you imagine? He looked just like Nick Cage. Exactly, but of course Nick Cage wasn't around in those days, but if he was a Nick Cage. If I had a nickel for every time I was sexually harassed, I think it's ridiculous, these people that are suing. So what if they whistle when you go by? That's what men should do, as opposed to, hitting you with their powder puff. That's what happened with Lou Walters. When I went in for the job, he tried to kiss me. He was Lou Walters, the impresario. He only had one eye. Mm-hmm. He said, would you be interested? And I said, yeah. I said, except do I have to kiss you? And he said, no. So anyway, we ended up being friends. So then years later, he whispered in my ear one night, you were the only